Deadman mode is back, and in today's video we're going to go over everything you need to know before release. Deadman mode Apocalypse will start this Friday, August 25th at 5 p.m. BST or noon Eastern Time, and it will end on Friday, September 15th, with the finale happening the following day on the 16th. But to kick things off with the most unique and important feature this Deadman season, we have breaches. At these 3 times right here each day, there will be 2 breaches that spawn on every single world, one of them being a single player and the other one being in a multi-area. And the breaches are essentially just chaos where regular boss monsters spawn at any given area throughout the world. So you could see something like a Prime, a KBD, a Jad, a Bandos boss just spawning in somewhere like Barbarian Village. These breaches will not only be good money and points, but they're also going to be the only way to access the corrupted weaponry in the entire game, and we'll touch on that a little later in the video. And there will be a notification in-game highlighting where both of the breaches are at if you do want to venture there. But moving on now for death mechanics. We no longer have the 3 death complete wipe system that we did in the last Deadman season. Instead, deaths in Deadman Apocalypse will work a little bit more similar to those in years past. You're going to lose all of the items you have equipped regardless of whether you're scald or not. On a PvP death, you will lose the 10 most valuable bank slots, and if one of these valuable slots is a stack of items, like for comparison a stack of 10 Dragon Claws, you would lose 80% of the stack, leaving you with just 2 pairs of Dragon Claws in your bank. Any items in your safe deposit box, which holds 10 items individually, not any stacks, all of those are protected. You do not lose any of your XP, and any unattuned sigils, whether they're on you or in your bank, will be deleted. All attuned sigils will always be safe. And upon your respawn from a PvP death, you will be given a starter pack, and this pack can be claimed from the combat tutors in Lumbridge. This also states there is no limit on how frequently you can claim your starter pack, but if you do have any of the starter weapons in your bank or inventory, you'll have to destroy them before collecting another. And unfortunately, these starter packs will be static and the same for all tiers. Unlike the original blog post where it would scale with your combat bracket, they were unable to implement this function. So you get the same starter pack at the very start as you would in one of the later combat bracket worlds. And speaking of combat bracket worlds, that's what we have up next. The first combat bracket world is 3 to level 50. You will get 10x combat XP in this bracket, 10 times skilling XP, and the original drop rate. The next bracket will be level 51 to 70. You'll also still get 10 times combat XP and skilling, but your drop rate multiplier will be doubled. So rather than an item being a drop rate of 1 in 360, it'll now be a drop of 1 in 180. The next combat bracket is level 71 to 90. Your combat XP will be bumped to a 15 times multiplier. The skilling will stay the same, but your drop rate multiplier will now be triple the drop rates. For the bracket of 91 to 110, everything stays the same, still 15 combat, 10 times skilling, and a 3 times drop rate. But for the final combat bracket, which will be levels 111 to 126, you'll continue to get 15 times combat and skilling, but your drop rates will now be 4 times more common. So the original item that was dropped at a 1 in 360 rate will now be dropped at a 1 in 90 rate. And upon entering a new bracket, every single time you enter the next bracket, including right off the rip in the level 3 to 50 bracket, we will be given 1 hour of PvP protection, which creates a very good time to do some risky content, so make sure you level into the next bracket wisely. But not only does progressing through the bracket give you some combat and drop rate buffs, we also have some quest unlocks. It's important to note that any quest that you have auto-completed, you won't receive any of the experience. You also won't receive any of the completion items unless they're otherwise specified. You do have the option to deny some of the quests being auto-completed when you level up to the different brackets if you do so choose. And any of the quests you do manually complete will be buffed up with the XP multipliers. And I'm not going to read all of these individually because there are a ton of them. So if you do want to look at any specific quest that might auto-complete for you, or if you want to make sure you manually do it before upping into the next bracket, make sure you check out the recent blog. But some of the big highlighted things are you get immediate access to Animal Magnetism and Mauritania within the first level bracket. The next level bracket gives you full completion of the Fremennik Exiles, a decent chunk of RFD, partial completion of the Elf storyline up to Roving Elves, and also immediate access to the superior Slayer creatures. The third level bracket of 71 to 90 gives you full completion of Monkey Madness 2 and everything prior, along with the completion of Desert Treasure and access to Ancient Magics. The fourth level bracket for levels 91 to 110 gives you almost full completion of RFD, along with access to TOA and TOB. And then the final bracket for levels 111 to 126 gives you full Barrow's Glove access, along with a few miscellaneous quests and completion of Dragon Slayer 2 and Secrets of the North, which, if you've done either of those quests, is basically completion of almost every quest in the game. These following items can be claimed once from the combat tutors in Lumbridge once you've auto-completed the quest, but be aware, once you claim them once from the combat tutors, if you do lose them, you'll have to re-obtain it from the original way. And for another new feature we have this Deadman season, we have the point system. Similar to the system that it was in Fresh Start Worlds, you'll be able to earn points by doing more or less anything in the entire game. And the more points you get, the better chance you'll have at receiving one of the potential prizes at the end of the season. We also have some specific breakdowns on how you can get potential points. Breaches are going to be a very good way of getting activity points because you will get 1 point per damage dealt to breach bosses. Completing beginner clues would reward you with 5 in comparison to a master clue receiving 30. Each combat achievement task, easies would be worth 4, with grandmasters being worth 150 each. And if you do happen to complete an entire tier, you'll also get bonus. The easy tier would offer a bonus of 66. Achievement diary tasks work the same, with easies offering 4 and elites giving 64. You'll get 10 points per quest point received. When it comes to skilling, you'll get 4 points per total level increase, along with 300 with each level 99 achieved. And then when it comes to PVMing, points will greatly vary depending on the boss and its combat level. But one important thing to mention is the first kill of every boss is giving a multiplier of 20x. So if originally a boss gives 4 points per kill, your first kill will give you 80 points, putting a big emphasis on killing at least one of every boss in the game. Next up, we have Sigils making their return from Deadman Reborn. Although this time around there has been quite a few tweaks. Some sigils have been removed, some have been buffed or nerfed, and some are just entirely new. We'll have the same choice for a starter sigil as we did in Deadman Reborn, meaning 1 for each combat style, as well as having the ability to claim a free sigil once every 24 hours along the starter pack. Outside of just the daily starter sigil you receive, you can also obtain sigils from basically all NPCs, but the tier of sigil and its drop rate to receive it will improve as you progress to the higher combat brackets. Apart from just drops though, sigils are also tradable on the GE, but you cannot trade them player to player. Although one big change with sigils this time around in Apocalypse in comparison to Deadman Reborn is we're no longer limited to just 2 combat sigils. You can have 3 sigils attuned to your player at any given time, and you can mix and match those to your liking, but this time around, rather than just having the ability to use 2 combat, you can use 3 combat, 3 skilling, or any combination of your choosing. A sneak peek at a couple of the utility sigils we have, the first one being the Trinket of Vengeance, and this allows you to cast the Vengeance spell without any requirements, and it works the exact same as the one on the Lunar Spellbook. It has a 30-second cooldown, and you wouldn't need level 94 magic to cast it. Another one is the Trinket of Undead, also a tier 2 sigil, and this just summons a random thrall without any requirements. And another one, we have the Trinket of Advanced Weaponry, and this is only available as a drop from breaches. And for this sigil, it is deleted as soon as you activate it, but it will give you a random corrupted weapon. The Sigil of Abyss has made its return, except from when rune crafting, you will now gain 10 times as many runes, a big jump up from where last year where it was just 5. The Sigil of Rampage has also made its return, and the way this sigil works is alternating your combat styles will increase your rampage count up to a maximum of 5. Consecutive attacks with the same style will reset this counter, but each rampage count will increase your damage and accuracy by 2%. This is slightly nerfed from last year where it was 3%, and all bonus damage will be reset to its base level if you're out of combat for 12 seconds. One of the sigils that's been removed is the Sigil of Freedom, which is activating this sigil will break you from any binding effects. And another sigil that's been removed is the Sigil of the Skiller, which will give you double XP in all of your skills. One new sigil we have is the Sigil of Agile Fortune, and this is every time a Mark of Grace appears on a rooftop agility course, 10k GP will spawn alongside with it. And then the final sigil they gave us a sneak peek of is the Sigil of Augmented Thrall, which increases the max hit of your summon thralls by 3 times. And we touched on this a little earlier, but another massive change we have with Deadman Apocalypse is the new corrupted weapons. Only obtainable through breaches, they are just a slightly nerfed down version of some of the best items in the game. All of these corrupted weapons are basically 20% worse than the original, but they are much easier to get with the Deadman season only lasting 3 weeks. There is going to be 6 corrupted weapons in Deadman Apocalypse, the first one being the Void Waker. It'll require 65 attack. The second one are Corrupted Dragon Claws, which will only require 40 attack. The Corrupted Armadillo Godsword, which will require 65 attack. The Corrupted Twisted Bow, which will require 70 range. The Corrupted Scythe of Vitor, which will require 60 attack and 70 strength. Not to mention, it will only be charged using blood runes, meaning you won't need the Vials of Blood and you can charge it anywhere in the game. And then finally, we have the Corrupted Shadow, which will require 75 magic. And its passive of the equipped magic accuracy and damage multiplier will be reduced from 3 times to 2x, and from 4x to 3x in the Tombs of Amascut. So obviously these corrupted weapons are no substitute for the real deal, but they do pack a serious punch, especially with some of the big reductions in their requirements. Now before we move on to the last part of the video, some other changes that have a big impact are Tier 5 relics will drop from all NPCs whose combat level is 100 or higher. You do not gain any combat XP while in combat with other players, but you do get XP drops to help you with PKing. There is going to be no peak option in any various place around the world. The peak option will still exist, but you will not be able to see anything. Revenants will have access to their irregular loot table, but they will not drop the ancient statuettes this time around, meaning it is not going to be the best source of money like it was last season, where just a ton of gold came in very early in the game with people getting super lucky from imps and goblins. There was some confusion in the previous blog. Edgeville is not going to be a safe zone. The Emblem Trader has been moved inside of the Grand Exchange, and the Warriors Guild has now been changed into a safe zone. Additionally, the Emblem Trader shop has been updated with new items and point cost. And then finally, blighted resources like the blighted manta rays or super restores or any of the other blighted items, they are usable throughout the entire game and not just in the wilderness, because obviously everywhere is PvP and Deadman. But with that, the last few things we're going to touch on are the merging of the permanent Deadman mode and then the finale. If you did not already know, at the end of these 3 weeks, your account and all of its progress is going to be merged onto World 345, which is currently the permanent Deadman mode world. And it's important to note, if you already have an account with permanent Deadman progress, you are not able to play the same account in Deadman Apocalypse, unless you are willing to remove all of your stats, gear, and otherwise progression. If you are willing to reset your entire progress on the original Deadman mode, you will have to reset that before starting on Deadman Apocalypse. So if that's something you're interested in, you'll have to talk to Nigel in the Lumbridge Graveyard after Apocalypse is released. You'll have to go there on the original World 345, go through all of the dialogue with Nigel where you'll talk about the numerous different warnings, and okay those to reset your account before you're able to access it on Deadman Apocalypse to restart fresh. And in relation to the merging, some other important things to note is that XP in all skills is capped at 99 because the XP rates on Deadman Apocalypse are higher than the original Deadman mode. The drop rate multiplier does not impact that of the Desert Treasure 2 bosses. If you do have any of the corrupted weapons, they do not transfer. They are permanently deleted after Deadman Apocalypse ends. But if you have the original intended source, like the actual regular version of the T-Bow, that will transfer. And then finally, the transfer occurs after the finale happens. So that means any items you lost during the finale by dying in the final hour, they are just deleted and they do not get transferred with your account. Also, if you do kill another player and pick up his or her items and then log out, you will carry all of those items with you with the merger. But apart from that, the last thing we have to cover in this video is the finale. I feel like at this point this video might have got pretty lengthy, so if you've made it this far, I appreciate the support and I hope you found it helpful. But the finale is going to occur on Saturday, September 16th. The finale will take place on 5 worlds simultaneously, none of which are restricted by combat level, so if you've made any progress whatsoever, you can go ahead and jump in. And the finale of this season is basically just going to be absolute chaos. The fog will start to spread and push players into a final smaller area. And on your way to the final area, breaches will just be occurring all throughout the world, just causing chaos on your way to the final fight. Once it gets boxed into the final little square, it will be a multi-combat battle until the last player stands. $1,000 will go to the last player standing on each of the 5 worlds. $1,000 will go to 20 players then paced on point tiers throughout the entire season. 3 players at or above the Addy tier, which is the top 20% in points. 5 players at or above the Room tier, which is the top 5% in points. 7 players at or above Dragon tier, which is the top 1%. And 5 players out of the top 25 will be given $1,000. So that is how the breakdown for the prize pool is going to work in Deadman Apocalypse. Once Deadman Apocalypse does come to a close, there will be a brief period before they announce all of the winners, because they're going to go through checks on each of the individual accounts to make sure that none of the game rules were broken, including things like account sharing or Deadman specific rules like boxing, muling, X-logging. Any of that will make you ineligible to receive your prize money. So make sure if you are looking for a chance to hopefully luckily cash in one of these prizes, make sure you don't break any of the game rules within Deadman. And as a last note, because I know it wasn't mentioned throughout this article, it was in one of the past ones, swapping will be allowed. So before you ask that question, hopefully you made it this far in the video because it is clarified now. But with that, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy the video or found it helpful, consider dropping it a like. Hopefully you are as excited for Deadman as I am. I know it's been quite a while. And we also just got an announcement of another league coming soon, which is a ton of fun with the limited time modes coming back to back. Either way, good luck on Friday, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.